Morning and welcome to the morning show. I'm your host, Jeannie Joseph, and we are officially kicking off the holiday season here at Friendship Village. I love the holidays, but not always crazy about the weather that comes with it here in Columbus, Ohio. But fortunately, this week we have mild temperatures in the 40s and 50s. And we have a wonderful lineup here at Friendship Village this week in terms of programming, beginning with our trip today to Clifton Mill. If any of you have not been to Clifton Mill, I'm hoping that you signed up. It is a beautiful venue with 4 million lights that come on at 6 o'clock at night. They also have a 3,000 Santa display there in Clifton Mill. So it's one of my very favorite light shows, and I'm hoping that you have signed up and will enjoy the evening. Tomorrow, Ann Vega is leading a trip to the Columbus Museum of Art to see the Pizzuti Collection exhibit, leaving at 1 o'clock. And then after that, they're going to go to Crumble Cookie. If you haven't had a crumble cookie, you need to have a crumble cookie. I just had my first one about 2 weeks ago, and it was delicious. On Wednesday is a very, very special day. We have the FVD Holiday Choir that will be performing for us at 11 o'clock here in the Muirfield Room with leader Johnny Steiner, the beloved Johnny Steiner. And so we're super excited. We've got between 40 and 50 residents that are participating. And come on down at 10:30. We're going to have some holiday refreshments right outside the Muirfield Room. So we look forward to seeing you and hearing the wonderful choir. On Thursday, Home Care Services will be presenting their portion of the Life Care document at 2 o'clock in the Muirfield Room. And at 3:30 that afternoon, there is a out to dinner at Wolf's Ridge Brewery. So my husband and I have not been there, so I'll be anxious to hear your reviews of the brewery. And on Friday, we end the week with a film showing the Rockettes Christmas Spectacular. Mikey is also holding a ping pong tournament at 3 o'clock. That has been moved from Ash Run Fitness to the Brandywine Fitness Center. And I wanted to ask you, how is your Healthy Holidays Maintain Don't Gain going? It's not too late to participate. If you're interested, please see Jill, Mikey, or Lauren. Today I thought it would be fun to talk about holiday traditions. Do you have holiday traditions? Well, let me tell you about mine. So when my children were little, my mother, for Christmas one year, started the Dickens Village for me. And so each Christmas she would add another piece of the village. Also, when the children were little, she gave me a recipe for homemade pecan rolls. So every Christmas, I would make those pecan rolls Christmas morning. So as the years went by, the kids were excited to see me put up the village. I accumulated, I don't know, maybe 13 pieces over time, and every Christmas morning we would have the pecan rolls. So now as my children have gotten older, they've moved away, and sometimes they're home for Christmas, sometimes not, but they'll always call me and say, Mom, have you put up the village? And if they're not able to come home for pecan rolls, they do let me know that they expect when they come home for the weekend or for the week that I will be making the pecan rolls. So I have with me today 3 lovely ladies that I've asked to share their holiday traditions. I've got Lois Meredith, Jean Forbes, and Lou Cavallero. So Lois, why don't you talk about your holiday traditions?
Good morning. My holiday tradition started maybe 50 years ago when I had a little Italian neighbor and whose mama was a really good cook. And she taught us how to make raviolis and really good Italian sauce. So when my family was around, when we were still in Pittsburgh, we would have the entire family in for Christmas Eve for homemade raviolis. So that carried on as long as I could do that, but we got transferred many times, so we didn't have family around. Well, about 24 years ago, my son Randy said, we are going to start the tradition of having raviolis on Christmas Eve. So Christmas Eve morning, usually Larry and I were there because we would go there for Christmas. we were in Michigan, Bill was in Cincinnati, Lee was in Cleveland, and Randy was here, so that was our central point. And we were there, and we would make, well, we started out making maybe 100. Well, as time went on, Randy said, we need to make this a little bigger, and I'm going to invite my friends for Christmas Eve. So we began making 200 to 300 raviolis. We would make meat and cheese. Well, in the meantime, I always made the sauce, and my husband decided he was taking over making the sauce. And Natalie would pull up her little chair and get up on her chair, and Pat would make the sauce. And one day my kid said to me, who made the sauce today? And I said, I did. Well, let Pat make it. He makes it much better. So this became Pat's sauce. So when Randy decided he was inviting all of his friends, we would take all of the furniture, move it in the living room, and have long, long tables. And we would make 200 to 300 raviolis. And that went on till a year and a half ago, and Randy passed away. And I thought, okay, well, the tradition's probably over. And last Christmas, Natalie said, Grammy, we're having raviolis. Are you coming over to help me make them? So normally every Christmas Eve, we would all get together, and that was our job, to make the raviolis. Randy would do the dough, and we would fill them. So he said, no, we're doing it. And I said, well, do you want me to make the sauce? Grammy, I'm doing it all. So she did, and the five of us were there with a big lump in our throat on Christmas Eve, and we had that tradition. So Natalie said, it's going to continue.
That's wonderful, Lois. Thank you for sharing that.
Do you want a tissue?
No, I'm good.
Jean, would you like to share yours?
Yes, because our family is living in different communities, our Christmas is the day when we're all together. Most frequently in recent years, not the 25th. But one of my traditions is a collection of nativity sets. And when the children were young, we would say, it's Christmas is when Jesus came. And they were allowed to put the Jesus into each nativity set. So that was the beginning of reminding them what Christmas was all about. On the day that we designate as Christmas Day, we start with a breakfast that includes breakfast before, Grandma's Kringles, and ambrosia. If you don't know those items, I have recipes for them. And then the children would be asked to distribute the gifts under the tree. So this hat came from my mother, and so the person who would distribute the gifts wore the hat. So each child took turns distributing the gifts, and then we would open them one at a time. The kids think that now that they're college students, they think it's a little dorky, but it reminds me of my mother, who had a lot of Christmas traditions.
Yeah. Thank you, Jean. That's wonderful. Lou, how about you?
Well, when you asked us on the bus coming back from Ogilvy if anyone wanted to share their traditions, I raised my hand and I said, did I really want to? Well, you sent me on a quest, and I thank you so much, because I have had the best week. I have talked with my 4 children about our traditional Christmas Eve fish meal. And we've had so many. We've been doing the 7 fish ever since I can remember, because my mother used to do it, and her mother before her. And now our men are the cooks in our family. So all the men are in competition with each other. They start after Thanksgiving falling and asking, what are we going to cook this year? I have 4, my daughter sent me 4 of the recipes, the menus that we've had since 1970. And these are just 4 of them. I have I have a brother in San Francisco. He now has moved back to New Jersey, and his name is John. But he has a little YouTube slot called Johnny, GIANNI.TV. And Johnny's real avocation is not law, but cooking. And he has become very friendly with a lot of people in San Francisco, and I am tearing up because that's typical Italian. Well, thank you for doing this, because the 7 fish meal is a tradition all over Italy and other countries too, I found out. But we buy 7 fish on New Year's Eve, not ravioli, but 7 fish. And you have the ravioli and we have the 7 fish. Well, sometimes it's 9 fish. You'll find out if you go on YouTube and look up traditional Christmas Eve fishes. It's called traditional Christmas Eve fishes. Sometimes it's 9, sometimes it's 12 or 13. Why 7? The 7 sacraments. Why 9? Who knows? 13 because of the 12 apostles of Christ, but it's really the 7 fish. Well, in our family, we start with appetizers, starting, as you say, early in the day, and everything is fish involved. But now, lately, in this last several years, we've also included seafood because some people don't like the calamari or the squid, which is squid, the cod, the bacala, the shrimp. We have shrimp, we have salmon, sometimes we'll have tuna. It just depends on who is supervising that year. Well, my son, Greg, who lives at Smith Mountain Lake in Virginia, he, 1 year, so he would really lay it all on. So he had lobster, he had crab, he had clams, he had all kinds of things. Now remember, all the men have to cook. And from 1970, it was just my husband and the 2 boys, and we helped prep a lot. The women were allowed. Then as the boys got older, they got more involved, and then we had grandsons. So now we have the grandsons involved. And since they were like 6, 7, 8, 9, they were there with their little Italian aprons on, bon appetito, and we had so many happy memories. So you sent me on a quest. I was on the phone, and that's what the 7 Fish Meal is all about, is bringing people together. And our family is a very loving one, and we missed my husband so much because he was the focal point for everything. And he started the recipes in 1970. And my daughter, Heidi, who lives in Richmond, Virginia also, she saved every single recipe, menu that we have had. So it's been very, very special.
Thank you, Lou. This has been so fun. Thank you so much for sharing your traditions with me today and to all of you. And thank you all for joining us on the morning show. Have a wonderful week.